we do hope you had yourselves a productive Tuesday. Now here's a sneak peek of our edition. Rwanda has expressed concern to attendees of the 59th session of the United Nations Human Rights Council over continued acts of provocation by the Democratic Republic of Congo since 2021. The Rwandan national airline Rwandair has been awarded the title of Best Regional Airline in Africa at an awards ceremony held in Paris, France. On the international scale, focused, fearless and fast female teenagers' dreams are in overdrive in India as the 16-year-old wants to be a Formula One champion one day. Once again, we're glad to have your company tonight, coming to you straight from the heart of Africa, Kigali, and my name is Martina Avera. Let us start off by informing you that Rwanda has expressed concern to attendees of the 59th session of the United Nations Human Rights Council over continued acts of provocation by the Democratic Republic of Congo since 2021. This was highlighted by Rwanda's permanent representative to the Council, Ambassador Urujeni Bakuramutsa, during a speech delivered at the session held in Geneva, Switzerland, where the Human Rights Council has headquartered.
Since late 2021, Rwanda has faced a disturbing escalation of hostile actions originating from the Democratic Republic of Congo. Of particular concerns is the reinforced collaboration between the Congolese army and the Kinshasa-backed FDLR, a UN-sanctioned armed group composed of individuals responsible for the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda, which continue to propagate a genocidal ideology in the Great Lakes. It is also important to highlight that the Eastern DRC is home to approximately 200 armed groups, further contributing to the persistent instability in the region. Also of concerns are the numerous attacks by the DRC against Rwanda, including cross-border shelling, repeated violation of our airspace by DRC jet fighters, enforced disappearances of Rwandan nationals in the DRC, and an organized campaign of hate speech and incitement against Congolese Rwandaphone communities. Perhaps most concerning are public statements by President Tshisekedi of the DRC and the President of Burundi openly calling for a regime change in Rwanda, an unprecedented escalation that cannot be ignored. It is equally important to underscore that the M23 is a movement made up of Congolese citizens, predominantly from Rwandaphone communities, who have long suffered human rights violation, marginalization, and discrimination. Their grievances are not foreign-sponsored, as it is often claimed and mentioned in the oral update, but rooted in structural exclusion, hate speech, and persecution. These are governance failures that must be addressed by the DRC government. Rwanda remains committed to the peace process in the Eastern DRC, mostly notably active participation in the African-led peace framework, as well as the complementary efforts in Doha and Washington, with the ultimate goal of achieving lasting peace, security, and prosperity for all. The East African Community and SADC peace process rightfully includes the establishment of humanitarian corridors as part of its framework. Rwanda urges the international community to prioritize and support this African-led initiative in both political and humanitarian terms. Only by empowering regional solutions can we effectively respond to the urgent needs of affected populations and tackle the root causes of instability. Mr. Vice President, in conclusion, Rwanda stands ready to engage in constructive dialogue, provided that the work of the fact-finding mission remains impartial and free from politicization. Only by addressing the structural drivers of conflict in Eastern DRC can the Council begin to restore trust and relevance in a region that has been too often failed by international community.
Rwanda's ambassador and permanent representative to the United Nations, His Excellency Martin Ngoga, has highlighted that the current pace of global technological advancements, particularly in the field of artificial intelligence, is being matched by a rise in hate speech, increasingly spread across social media platforms. He emphasized that the world should not allow technology to be used as a tool to propagate division and incite hatred. Ambassador Ngoga made these remarks during the global commemoration of the International Day for Countering Hate Speech.
Continues to confront the lingering presence of this dangerous ideology. We witness the persistence of hate and the urgency of building stronger safeguards in law, technology, and governance. Excellency Chair, in this regard, it is important that, among others, the following priorities that we believe are essential for an effective global response must be considered. First, we must invest in data-driven monitoring mechanisms that go beyond surface-level detection. Current moderation systems often overlook hate speech when expressed in non-dominant languages or cloaked in coded languages. Professor Stanton knows, and he made a reference about cockroaches or going to work. Going to work, which must be something ordinarily good, but in the context that is specific, it meant going to kill people. To be effective, monitoring must be multilingual, culturally aware, and capable of identifying emerging patterns before they escalate. In regions like ours, where the echoes of past atrocities remain painfully close, early warning systems must be informed by real-time, disaggregated data that reflect the specific vulnerabilities of targeted communities. Secondly, any meaningful response must be context-specific. Too often, interventions are detached from the histories, power dynamics, and the social fractures that make certain communities more susceptible to hate-fueled violence. And lastly, we must adopt an inclusive and multi-stakeholder approach to both policy and practice. Governments alone cannot solve this problem, nor can technology companies act as the sole drivers. We must include and empower all actors, including civil society and the private sector, to disrupt harmful narratives through access to resources, capacity building, decision-making platforms at both national and global levels. To conclude, Excellency Chair, Rwanda believes that hate speech is not only dangerous, it incites violence, it erodes social cohesion, and opens old wounds. It threatens to pull us backward. We must not allow the digital age to be a breeding ground for the ideologies we vowed never to tolerate again. Let us ensure that our digital spaces serve as engines of inclusion and not instruments of division. Thank you.
The Rwanda national airline, RwandAir, has been awarded the title of Best Regional Airline in Africa at an awards ceremony held in Paris, France. RwandAir's management has described the award as a significant milestone in the quality of service the airline provides. They also affirmed their commitment to honoring the trust placed in them by continuing to improve the quality of air travel services both within Africa and beyond.
Thank you so much. We are super proud to have been recognized as the best regional airline in Africa as RwandAir, a milestone that honestly would not have been possible without our valued customers. We thank our customers for the trust, loyalty, and of course for voting for us. The way this award is organized, it's actually customers, passengers that votes for the airlines. They place airlines somewhere, so we are thankful. This award service we strive to deliver every day. If inspires us even more to continue raising the bar, offering safe, reliable, and exceptional service to everyone who flies Rwanda Air. And that's actually our vision. Our vision is to be the airline of obvious choice in the market we serve. Thank you so much.
Citizens and leaders in Zimbabwe believe that the strong relationship between their country and Rwanda is mainly due to the respectful and supportive way Rwanda has engaged with them. They say Rwanda is a model in good governance and express gratitude for the advocacy that President Paul Kagame has consistently made on their behalf, especially in calling for the lifting of international sanctions that had crippled their economy. The year 2019 was historic for both Rwanda and Zimbabwe as it marked the opening of embassies in each other's countries. Since then, the relationship has significantly deepened, as noted by some Zimbabwean nationals living in Rwanda.
President Kagame, to me, is a true son of Africa, true son of soil of Africa, a good soldier who soldier on with development. I can see Rwanda is becoming a hub for all African countries in terms of development. The city is smart. We are copying that from Rwanda. Every first week of the month, as a nation, we are copying Rwanda to clean our streets.
Zimbabwe is a landlocked country classified as lower middle income. It's particularly rich in tourism, mineral resources, and education. Rwanda's ambassador to Zimbabwe, His Excellency James Musoni, noted that in September this year, another group of teachers from Zimbabwe will be sent to Rwanda.
Yeah, Rwanda and Zimbabwe enjoy very cordial relations. We see this even with trade and investment programs going on. We have signed MOUs promoting trade and investment between Rwanda and Zimbabwe. And we've been seeing trade and investment conferences organized by RDB and their counterparts here in Zimbabwe. So far, we have some Zimbabwean investors already in Kigali and different parts of the country, and we do have Rwandans here in manufacturing, in trading, and we expect numbers to grow because both governments have facilitated private sector to understand opportunities that exist within both countries, and we expect private sector to take advantage of that. We also have teachers who are in different sectors, right from university to colleges and other areas. We so far have about 150 education professionals in Rwanda, and we expect another bunch of these in September this year to join our education system in Rwanda.
Since 2022, Rwanda and Zimbabwe have signed several trade and cooperation agreements. Delegations from both countries, including private sector representatives, have regularly met in Kigali and Harare to strengthen bilateral ties. The decision by Zimbabwe to seize farmland from white settlers and expel them from the country led to strained relations with nations such as the United Kingdom, the United States, Canada, Australia, and the European Union. These tensions resulted in severe sanctions that heavily damaged Zimbabwe's economy. President Paul Kagame, both during his tenure as chairperson of the African Union and in later years, repeatedly called for the lifting of these sanctions, stance reiterated by Ambassador James Musoni. On April 18, 1980, Zimbabwe, formerly known as Rhodesia, gained independence following years of guerrilla warfare led by liberation fighters. Among them was the late Robert Mugabe, who became the first prime minister and later president before being succeeded by the current president, Emerson Mnangagwa. Refugees living in the Gashora Emergency Transit Center in Bugesera district have pledged to fight against genocide, denial and revisionism even after they leave Rwanda. They say they will use social media to counter those who distort or deny the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi. Their determination is rooted in the knowledge they gained about the genocide during a commemoration event held at the Ntarama Genocide Memorial in Bugesera as part of the Kwibuka 31. On Tuesday, a group of refugees from Gashora Center visited the memorial where they were taught about the history of the genocide and shown around the different sections of the site. Mohammed Al-Tahir Abdallah, a refugee from Sudan, said that the preserved evidence at Rwanda's genocide memorials clearly demonstrates that the genocide against the Tutsi was well planned and executed with extreme cruelty. He emphasized that those who deny or minimize it should not be tolerated.
If all people in my country or in the world can understand what has happening in Rwanda, 1994, I hope all of them, there will be peace. There will be peace in your country, not to discriminate the people or discrimination of the peoples and the tribe.
Fares Ruyumbu, the manager of the Gashora Emergency Transit Center, explained that such visits are organized to educate refugees about Rwanda's history so that when they are resettled in different countries, they can serve as ambassadors of truth and challenge those who deliberately distort the facts that led to the genocide against the Tutsi in 1994.
The purpose of this visit was mainly to learn about the history of Rwanda, especially the history of the 1994 genocide against Tutsi. Our refugees who are coming here in Rwanda, they stay temporarily and they find their solutions, their durable solution away from this country, abroad. And we felt that this would be worth it to come and pick the tangible history from the ground so that once they are there, they can get at least, could be able to compare with what they see there, what they read in the news, and what they have seen from the field. And that's what mainly the purpose of the visit today. The message to the youth is avoiding any divisive ideology, because we've seen what has come, outcome of the divisive ideology in the 1994. It's horrible. Actually, everyone should avoid this. So we send message to the youth to fight for unity, prosperity, and togetherness to rebuild this country, to have it progressing.
Currently, the Gashora Emergency Transit Center hosts around 650 migrants and asylum seekers from various countries, all of whom were evacuated from Libya, where they had been stranded while attempting to reach Europe. The first group arrived in Rwanda in 2019. The Association of Microfinance Institutions in Rwanda has announced that the ongoing program to consolidate Umurenge SACCOs will offer a lasting solution to the problem of high interest rates on loans. Bestine Mukagashugi, a resident of Runda sector in Kamonyi district, acknowledged that loans she has accessed from her local SACCO have contributed to her development. However, she pointed out that the interest rates remain high compared to those offered by commercial banks. In Bugesera district, Ririma SACCO has around 8,000 members, yet only about 4,000 are actively engaged with the cooperative. Its accountant, Francois Nhabanganyimana, attributes this to various challenges faced by members. Except for Nyamata Sacco, most Saccos in Bugesera and many other districts charge an annual interest rate of 24% on loans. Dizeye Damie, director of the Rwanda Consumer Rights Protection Organization, stated that these interest rates are higher than those of some commercial banks. He called on relevant institutions to address this concern. According to national policy, Saccos in each district are being merged into a single financial institution, with individual Umurenge Saccos becoming branches of that institution. This restructuring has already been implemented in Kigali, where it has solved several challenges, including high loan interest rates. Fidel Ndahayo, the manager of Rusororo Sacco, confirmed the positive impact of this reform. Kwichiriza Jackson, Amir's executive director, said that the Sacco consolidation process will be completed within the next 10 months. After that, a cooperative bank will be established to oversee all 30 district-level Sacco institutions. He emphasized that this transformation is intended to improve services for members by boosting their cooperative's lending capacity once resources are pooled.
One of the reasons why the interest rate is high is the cost of fund. So most of these institutions, especially the Saccos, sometimes they don't have sufficient fund or capital to lend out to their members. So they reach out for a line of credit from different wholesale lenders, and they get fund which is expensive. Yeah. Eventually, they also give out the loan at a very high interest rate. So we want to ensure that we have a fund that attract impact fund, for example, equity or debt, so they can also borrow locally at a very low interest rate. Some of these institutions have also been borrowing in hard currency or foreign currency, in dollars, in euros, and then they lend in local currency. They pay back in hard currency. So you can see the exchange loss gain is always a problem. So we want to ensure we have a local fund where they will be borrowing at a low interest rate and with good terms. Yeah. Third is that Amir is working to implement different projects. Today we have 2 projects with a facility fund. So we ensure at least we have a facility fund that we give our members at a very low interest rate, so they can also lend at a very low interest. For example, we give them a facility fund at 4% or 5%, so they can lend also at probably 12 up to 15. So we have to do that. So there are different mechanisms by different development partners to ensure that the interest rate that we also know is high is reduced eventually. At the end, once the cooperative bank is set, the cooperative bank itself will be able to mobilize capital once from the shares from the members of this district Sacco, other institutions or cooperative that will buy shares, but they will also have the capacity as a team to mobilize resources from different parts in the country or different development partners, investors, and then they will have a working capital that they can support. They can help support district Saccos, and then they lend at a low interest rate to their own lenders.
He also assured members that they will retain and even grow their shares in the cooperatives, especially as some previously costly services will now be offered at more efficient, centralized levels. Women leaders from religious institutions, university lecturers in theology, and inclusive reproductive health focused civil society organizations met with government officials in a joint dialogue aimed at finding lasting solutions to the challenges still faced by persons with disabilities, particularly girls and women, in accessing inclusive sexual and reproductive health services. Dr. Beth Nasiforo, head of the umbrella organization of Rwandan organizations of persons with disabilities, emphasized the important role that religious institutions can play in advancing reproductive health education and services for persons with disabilities.
We realize that in churches and the religious setting, people don't want to talk about sexual reproductive health. Because of that, youth have been vulnerable because of lack of knowledge, lack of information about the issue of sexual reproductive health. This is why we thought that since religious leaders are influential people, people who are understood by the society. We thought it is good to empower them, but also creating awareness about that program, which can be introduced among the teachings of the church. Secondly, we realize in that journey, we realize that despite the fact that the government has many programs on the health issue and sexual reproductive information, especially if you go to the health centers, you can find the rooms for youth. We realize that youth with compounded vulnerability, especially youth with disability, don't access information because, for example, the deaf people, those with impairment of hearing and speaking, they don't access information and the services given by the government at the health centers because of there is lack of sign language translators. What we did for some pastors, we also taught them about how they can include those youth with disability. Now we realize that some pastors are ahead. They have trained some young people who can be sign language translators in their churches, but also can help those people with disabilities.
Dr. Jean-Baptiste Nihumbia, Director of Quality Assurance and Health Services at the Ministry of Health, stated that teaching sexual and reproductive health to young people is a collective responsibility, especially for those who regularly interact with the broader public.
On behalf of the National Union of Disability Organizations in Rwanda, NUDOR, and as co-organizer of this conference, alongside our valued partners from the Circle of Concerned African Women Theologians, Rwanda chapter, I am honored to open what I believe will be a critical space for learning, reflection, celebration, and renewed commitments. This conference is more than accumulating our event Make Way program. It is a bold and necessary call to action. It is a declaration that sexual and reproductive health and rights must be inclusive, accessible, and just, especially for those who live at the intersection of multiple forms of inclusion for young people with disability, adolescents, girls, survivors of violence, those in poverty, and any others whose voices have often been overlooked in policy and service delivery.
Young people who participated in the discussions underscored the vital role that religious institutions and faith-based organizations must play in delivering accurate and age-appropriate information on sexual and reproductive health. They noted that adolescents, particularly boys and girls in their formative years, often rely on misinformation that distorts their understanding of bodily changes and health. The Israeli ambassador to Rwanda, Einat Weiss, has stated that the recent large-scale military strike launched by Israel against Iran was aimed at dismantling threats to its national security. According to her, the Iranian regime has for years pursued the annihilation of Israel using nuclear weapons of mass destruction. Adam Squizera with more.
5 days ago, Israel launched an attack on Iran, claiming the goal was to undermine the country's efforts in developing nuclear weapons efforts that, according to Israel, are part of Iran's long-standing plan to destroy the Israel state. Israel also cited Iran's uranium enrichment program as part of this broader threat. In a virtual press briefing, Ambassador Einat Weiss said the decision to strike came after the intelligence reports indicated suspected locations where nuclear weapons development and military operations were being carried out. She explained that while Israel focused on targeting military and nuclear-related facilities, Iran retaliated by launching ballistic attacks targeting Israel's civilians and infrastructures. So far, 20 people have been killed in cities such as Tel Aviv and Jerusalem, and more than 400 others seriously injured. Ambassador Weiss emphasized that Iran's ambitions to wipe Israel off the map through weapons of mass destruction represent not only a direct threat to Israel, but a global concern. She added that although Israel is one of the directly involved in the conflict, the aim is to protect the broader international community for these threats. Meanwhile, the Israeli military recently confirmed that it had targeted Iran's Qatam al-Anbiya military command center, where key military operations are coordinated, resulting in the death of Iran's chief of staff, al-Shadman. His death follows that several of other top Iranian military officials killed in the recent strikes over the past 5 days. Adam Squizera, RTV News.
During life's moments, playing hoops, giving away, making moves, breakfast with family. Inyanje is always there. Whatever the occasion, whatever the moment, always ask for Inyanje.
Nyiri muto arababwiraga data bati ntabwo wagira umukamo mwinshi utunze inka imwe, ariko nigeze acika intege. Mama akinjira mu bucuruzi hari abamubwiraga bati ntabwo watera imbere udakorera mu iduka rigezweho, ariko ntibyamusubije inyuma, yakoranaga umwete. Njya muri kaminuza hari abanshidikanyagaho bavuga ko nashobora kaminuza naturuka mu muryango wifashije, ariko byarangiye nanditse amateka mashya. Igihe cyo gutera ishema umuryango wanjye kigeze, bamwe bakomeje kumbwira bati ntabwo watera umuryango wawe ibyishimo n'ishema, ariko narabishoboye. Hari abakekaga ko nasigira umurage ukomeye abankomokaho, ariko ubu mfite uruganda rutunganya amata. Banki ya Kigali yabaye umufatanyabikorwa wanjye mu rugendo rwose, inzozi zanjye ziba impamo. Bigereho.
Muyobozi wa sosiyete, turakwibutsa ko buri sosiyete isabwa n'itegeko kubika ibitabo bya sosiyete ndetse no gushyikiriza RDB amakuru abikubiyemo. Ibyo bitabo birimo igitabo cy'abanyamigabane, icy'abagenewe inyungu ku migabane, inyandiko y'amakuru ya sosiyete, ibaruramari ngarukamwaka n'izindi. Gutanga amakuru y'ugenewe inyungu ku migabane wanyura kuri bo.rdb.rw, naho gutanga izindi nyandiko ukanyura kuri org.rdb.rw.
Welcome back to stories making headlines on the international scene. Heading over to India, a focused, fearless and fast female teenager's dreams are in overdrive in India as the 16-year-old wants to be a Formula One champion one day. Euronews with more.
We're all taking this risk, but we get in the car every time. Anything happening at those high speeds will not be good. In my whole life, I've actually only raced against male drivers. I'd like to create my own path. My name is Shriya Lohia. I'm 16 years old, and I'm a professional Formula 4 driver. In Formula 4 cars, we have restricted to just a certain view. That's what by definition is tunnel vision, where you can only see a certain amount, and you have to work with that. That's where your peripheral vision comes into play. So look at your other competitors and see what else is on track, and look in your mirrors, making sure that you're able to process the right things at the right time. I experienced such a big adrenaline rush. It just felt like my calling. I discovered my passion for racing. The moment I stepped into a go-kart, I was 9 years old. I was having a lot of fun under the helmet and taking in every moment. It was just something that came so naturally to me when I first drove my few laps. It was like the universe was telling me this is meant for you and you're meant to do this for the rest of your life.
It was Shia's interest, so that time we started supporting her. She joined this professional academy.
Shreya was the youngest racer at that time. She was the only female racer.
After 1 or 2 months practice, she participated in the first championship. She came 4th.
I felt the thrill of competition. I knew I wanted to be on the top step of the podium. Maintaining physical health in motorsports is quite important because you're racing at ridiculous speeds and there's a lot of impact on your body. Neck training is very important in motorsports because the G-forces you feel on your neck can impact you a lot during a race. Make sure they're quick and we're able to react to things on time on the racetrack. The steering wheel and the brake pedal can be quite heavy at times, so it's quite important to ensure you have good endurance in the car for such long durations with a lot of different weather conditions. Spend a bit of time on the simulator to get acclimatized to the tracks. You're allowed to experiment with the different types of cars that you want, the different type of weather conditions that you want. You kind of get an understanding of the racetrack as well as racing conditions before you actually get to drive on it. A racing simulator is very important. It helps you mentally and helps you maximize your potential on the racetrack, having already replayed it all in your head. There's a lot of people who still have that stereotype that women can't drive on the roads. Being the only female in a male sport, you're going to be scrutinized a lot. I had lots of criticism throughout my career. To be a woman in this profession, it takes a lot of guts. It takes a lot of mental resilience. The best way for you to excel in what you're passionate about is to focus on what you need to do and not on what other people have to say. So that someday it'll be a normal thing, it'll all be equal. I had to spend a lot of time prioritizing my studies as much as I did my racing. Studies teach you so much that you can implement in racing, especially being a physics student. My mom is always helping me.
I try to cover up her syllabus as much early as I can do so that she can be free throughout the year and she can concentrate on the racing. You can't ignore the studies. If racing didn't work in future, then you should have a backup plan.
Quite important to pursue academics alongside sports. My family has done a lot for me. They're ready to sacrifice their schedule to come and help me out emotionally, mentally, physically, or even at the racetrack. My sister, she's my best friend. Being an athlete herself for a few years, she knows what the pressure feels like, what it feels like to live up to your 100%. There's so many tough times you have to get through, and sometimes you just can't do it alone. They're always there for me. If I ever need any mental support, it's been a great experience. My main goal is to get to Formula 1 someday. To show everyone that India can also be a country for motorsports and India can develop a great motorsport athlete. My favorite has been Michael Schumacher. For his resilience, for his fighting skills, for even his presence of mind in moments when things get tough. Just the way he kept pushing to the limit inspires me a lot. The ideal roadmap would be doing a season of European Formula 4, getting some good results, move up to Formula 3, then 2, and then to my final step. My idea of success is making a name for your country, making a name for your family, inspiring a lot more people to take up the sport, and inspiring people to follow their dreams. To get a few podiums in Formula 1 would also be great.
And That Euro News marks the end of our bulletin, and on behalf of the news production team as well as the technical team, thank you for sticking with us on RTV News. My name is Martina Avera, and up until next time, stay safe and have a good night.